Hey HO Racing fans, this is Scott. I'm talking to you from behind the camera tonight. Tonight we're going to do the build for the auction car that was the sister car to the giveaway for the 500 subscriber winner, which was Laura. Her car is on her way. Hopefully she gets it here in the next couple of days. Post office said by Friday, so we'll see if they're right. So I wanted to do another build and show exactly what parts exactly went back into this sister car. It's going to be built exactly the same as Laura's car. So basically we're going to take a car like this, strip it down to this, and then make it look like that again. So let's get started. I've already taken the liberty to set out some of the parts, cut open the package here, and so this is the first time this car has been out of the package since 1996, so it's 27 years old. No, too much light, not going to show it, but yeah, 26 years old. And if you remember, whenever we got this car out the last time when it was bone stock factory, it ran really good with the factory tires. They're still actually kind of pliable. They're not too hard. Kind of surprising. So we're going to go ahead and just take off the body. And then, like I mentioned, if you missed the first video, the first thing I do is I start with the easy disassembly stuff first. So I'm going to disassemble the rear axle assembly. This pops right out right there. And then I'm going to take off the front axle assembly, and you just push down. So it's kind of the opposite. On the rear you push up, and on the front you push down. So we'll put all the factory parts there. The next thing that I personally do is take off the shoes. So you just get them off that retaining clip there at the front, just pull and lift around. Then I bring the shoe straight up, push it down a little bit, and then that disengages the hook from that barrel in there. Got one factory shoe off, brand new. You can see even from the factory they have little knocks on them, or marks on them, and that's to show that, yeah, it's coming out on the camera. They were tested before it hit got stuck into its plastic coffin. So once again, here's that tab without a shoe. There it is again. I'm just gently pulling it forward, sliding it over the front, not to bend the shoe, just to permanently bend it, just to tweak it a little bit, just to get it off. And there we go. So now we have our car disassembled down to the chassis with just the motor itself and the guide pin. So it doesn't take very long to get there. So the first tool and trick that I do before I start taking it apart is I use something to hold the motor together, because the chassis, it's all one assembly. So well, it's all held together as one assembly. So these two bulkheads clip into this main chassis. So as soon as you take it out, it loses all stability and wants to come apart. So first thing I do is I get it to where I have control over it without having to worry about the motor assembly coming apart while I'm disassembling from the chassis. So put that up there. Twist, get it good and tight, that way it holds it together. So see, all I've done is loop it on one side of the stator, and then came across on the back side back here, opposite. The next thing I do is grab a toothpick and then pry in between the motor magnet and the chassis. Get it to slide down in there, hopefully. There we go. And you can see it kind of bulges it out. I go ahead and push it all the way through. And then with the chassis kind of bowed out like that, you simply just push down and then rotate like this on the side of the toothpick, and the whole assembly comes right out. And there we go. We'll need that toothpick again, but the next thing I do is get the factory springs, brush springs off. Goes down there. I just kind of pinch them together, get them around that hook right there, and they slide right off. So now we have our disassembled motor assembly. You can see there, held together with a little twisty tie. So now at this point, what I like to do is go ahead and get rid of the plastic heat shield to keep you from burning your fingers. Put that over here, because I do put that back on. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, while it's all pinched together really tight, is I'm going to go ahead and remove the brush barrels. So it doesn't take much. I just get a set of standard needle nose pliers, grip it, and then rotate, well, try to. Gently rotate and pull out. You don't want to do it real fast. And then I kind of tilt it up to make sure that and there we go. You can see it there. There's the brush. And as you can see, there's a spring in there, and we will be replacing that. But we're going to be reusing the brush barrel, so I'm going to set that whole assembly there. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Trying to work around the camera here, guys, so a little difficult to get the angles right, so I apologize. But like I said, just get a good little grip on it. Start rotating. Yeah, see, it broke loose. And just start pulling as you twist. And I hold it and rotate it up. And there you saw the brush fall out. And there's the reason why I use these the microfiber towel, is to catch it like it did over here, as you can see. Different color. So we'll just leave it there. I know which one's which. Now we need to get there's our motor assembly. We've got our brushes out, brush barrels out, I'm sorry. Now we need to go ahead and just remove the factory magnets. And that's real simple. Just get you a little screwdriver and push on one side if they don't want to come out. And that's a good thing, you'll see later. So now we have our factory magnets. I just wanted to stick together. Cool. Alright. So now there we go. We got our bare chassis. Except for the guide pin. I'm not changing the guide pin, so there's no need for me to pull it out. So now what we need to do, we got the chassis strip. Now we can go ahead and we got the brush barrels out on either side. Now we can take our twisty tie off. As you can see, that's why I did that, because that's literally, when it snaps in there, it holds these bulkheads. This is what it's called, the front bulkhead and the rear bulkhead. And you can also see I have the level 4 ceramic, not the polymer, motor magnets over there. And you notice that the white magnet goes on the left, and then the red one will go on the right. So we're just simply going to kind of pull it back a little bit. Put the factory magnet over there with this buddy's the factory traction magnets. All I did is, there we go. And I'll do the other one. Just like that, voila, we've got our motor back together. And just to make sure, yeah, it's got a little bit of play, you notice, but not a lot, and obviously it spins freely. Now our twisty tie here, thread tie, whatever you want to call it. That's Instead I go opposite, so it kind of puts an opposite torque, and I get it in there pretty tight so it holds it together. See, I got rid of the flex. Now the next thing we need to do is get our brushes set up, brush barrels. So I'm going to dump that out. I got one of the barrels brushes already came out. Use a newer toothpick that's got a finer point on it and get in there and get the spring out. And there it is. And there's the brush barrel spring, the factory that we're taking out. And then this one's brand new, but if you're rebuilding yours, then this is where you would get a pipe cleaner. Or if you don't want to spend the money on a pipe cleaner, just get a toothpick and some alcohol and drown it in there and use the toothpick to clean it out. Like I said, this one's brand new, so we don't have to worry about that. But that gives the example. See, the toothpick goes all the way through, and if you had alcohol, and if you were doing that in alcohol, then that would clean that brush barrel out. Get the other spring out of there. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and run it in there a couple times. Alright, the meeting. Here's one of our silver 6/1000 brush springs. That one over because I know that's the factory one. And here's our, I'm going to set that down so I can kind of orientate it. I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera, but this is the flat side. There's a flat side, and then there's a side that's got a concave in it. The flat side goes into the brush barrel. Only if you hold on to everything. Got that in there. There's the flat side, so flat side goes into the barrel like so. Well, if I wouldn't have sprung it out, we'd have been good to go. These are really tiny parts, and if you've ever done one, you know what I'm talking about. So, now I've got it in there. Now I need to make sure that I orientate it into the bulkhead where the concave is going to match the concave on the rotor, on the stator itself. Even those out. One thing I just now remembered I forgot to do, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them out now. Pull it out now. Forgot to do my little ballpoint pen trick to the stator, and I want to make sure this one has the same tricks that the other one has. So once again, kind of tilt it so that the brush stays in there, and there we go. There's our one that's complete, so I'll set it down. Move my twisty tie up to the side a little bit here. Move the camera back so I can get the ink pen out. Thought I had all my tools ready, guys. That's what you get for thinking, or I get for thinking. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm running this ink pen in that groove. There's a groove right there. and everywhere there's a groove, I'm running the ink pen, and that's to round down those edges on that stator. Help keep the brushes, there we go, help keep the brushes from bouncing while that thing's spinning. Sometimes they have little rough edges. And this ballpoint pen trick helps round those things down. That one, that should have one more. There it is. Like I said, you don't even have to disassemble your whole car to do it, as long as you can get to the stator itself. But if you've got it apart, you might as well do it at that time. So now that we've got that in there, now I can put the brush barrel back in, making sure that the concave matches the arc of the barrel on the curvature of the arm. So there's the curve. It's at a 9-3 position. Push it in as far as I can with my fingers. Get out the old needle nose again. Make sure it's seated. And you can look and make sure there's no gap down there, and we're solid. So now we just need to repeat on the other side. So once again, we'll assemble our barrel. This time I'll kind of hold it where I need to have everything at. So there's the barrel. I got extra springs out just in case one went flying, so didn't have to dig out the bag and do backups. Boy, that one fell right in. So that's the factory one. So let me move it over here. Alright, so picked it up right too. There's the flat side. Flat side goes in. You see, there's the concave. So the concave kind of lines up in a 9-3 position as far as like a clock would go. Make sure I get that in there where it's going to seat. And I always just give them a little twist while it's here. And let's go ahead and make sure that they're both, no, they're seated. So now I give it a little twist just to make sure that we're all good. And we are. So, yay for that. Now the next thing I'm going to do before we snap the motor back into the chassis, bare chassis there, here's our double springs. And you'll notice there's a little tab right there. Those are going to split in between it, but to hold it in place, you need to move that one that's on the left over to the right, creating an X. And I thank Mark's Slot Car Garage for helping me out with that little tip. I need to get the spring on there. So you go around that little notch, and then now that you've got it held on, just move that over like so. And see how it's kind of showing it. Yeah, well, I've moved the one that was over here on the other side of that tab, creating an X to hold it in place for when I lock in the motor assembly into the chassis. So now I need to do the other side. Slide the spring on, go around the little notch, hold it in place, and then make our little X on the other side. And there we go. There, it's kind of showing it in the camera. See how I kind of X'd them in there? All right. So now we got our springs in there. We've got the brush barrels, the silver springs, the silver brushes, and the silver dual springs, and the level 4 magnets. And now we need to reassemble. So we need to start working on the chassis here. So first thing I always do is, some people put in the traction magnets last. I always like to go ahead and put them in, and I'll show you my little trick for holding them in place, because they will want to pull out of the socket now that they're not the factory strength anymore. These are level 8 traction magnets, done on purpose. Level 10 would be, I think, too strong for a factory arm, and it would drag it down and make it no fun. And then I stick tire in between there. Another Mark was telling me this was one of his tricks too. He used a front tire, and last time I used a rear tire, so I'm going to try his little front tire trick and see if that works. Alright, so there we go. So we've got the motor, the traction magnets in level 8, and I orientated them just the same way as I did with the motor magnets. Oh, oops, and I managed to pick it up and pop it off. Yeah, you gotta be careful with these little springs. Pull back there, get it against the bulkhead. Now the trick is we need to spread the part and put it back in from the top, or the bottom, I'm sorry. So I kind of pinch it apart there. And you can see where it needs to line up in the little tab areas, so I need to, there we go. I'm making sure my springs stay in there on the brush barrels. And there we go. So I can come up here and uncross it. Like so. Allows it to flow freely. Like it's designed to. And if you're wondering why you use double springs, and that's it's going to hold the shoe flat on the rail. So now we've got the assembly back in the chassis. We can get rid of our handy dandy bread tie. Great little trick. And now what I like to do is put in the shoes. Move this over here, that out of the way. Don't know if it's going to show up on the camera, but I'm going to try to show you what it looks like before and after. And yeah, there it is. See that little notch right there? Right there. Okay, that little notch you have to remove. See how it won't let the screwdriver come up the shoe? Well, it won't let those double springs slide either, so that has to be removed. And what I do is I just get needle nose, grab it, and then get it where it's angled away, and then smash it flat, and then they just usually break right off. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with that, so I've already prepped 2 of them, but I wanted to show you. You can see it's gone. There's no more notch. And then when you're coming up with your spring, it needs to come up underneath that little notch where the spring is, where we're being held, right up there. And then it's just going to slide over, just the opposite of what we did to take it off. Oops, I missed the, there we go. Where we did to take it off. There we go, and voila. And it's seated back up underneath that little tab that'll hold it in place. And the double spring is able to move freely, doesn't hang up, so one down, one to go. Once again, modified, no lip. You go down in between the shoe, hook around the barrel. Bring it over the top. That's why I have a little screwdriver handy. Sometimes you can see where that one's not wanting to go underneath, so you just have to give it a little persuasion. That way it'll seat. Oh, yeah, that's the problem. There we go. So popped right in. So once again, we got our double springs. Yay. Good stuff. All right. And while the motor is this far disassembled, I'm going to show you guys where you oil. And right here at the front of the stator, where it comes through the bulkhead, and I spin it before I move it around, or rotate to do the back side. That way I'm letting gravity help work it into the plastic. And you can see I didn't use much, it's just barely glistening. And back here on this back side, oh, it's easier to get that right there. There we go. Do the same thing, let gravity do its job and spin it. Alright, now we're ready for our razor front end. And here, there's one other thing that I'll go ahead and put oil in what I call the axle saddle, where the axle rides. So I put a little drop there, put a little drop here. Then I slide it in. Viper front razor axle. And if you missed it last time, I push them together and then I work it apart. You just want a little bit of play. Oh. Like something wasn't feeling right because this side didn't snap in. Push it in a little more. Alright, now. Alright. And we've got our Viper rear end assembly, so we simply flop it over. It is real simple. Snaps into place. And I put it in there backwards. That's okay, I forgot to oil it. Oh yeah, we got butter. Oh yeah, there we go. And there it is. Tyco 440 silver shoes, double silver springs, silver brushes, silver brush springs, level 4 motor magnets, level 8 traction magnets, Viper rear end with a 25 tooth gear, and the factory, so it's a 725, and it came with the factory Viper tires, but I'll be switching those out to a set of super tires, 438s, and then we'll be auctioning this car off with the set of Viper tires that came with it, all the factory parts, and then the 438 tires, and I'll go ahead and put those on there and get those out. But there it is. So this is the car you can bid on this coming Saturday night on part of the auction, and if not, then at least you got a step-by-step video showing you how to build your own. And I'm going to include the part numbers as I'm doing this stuff, so it should be above what I'm doing briefly. That way you can see the exact part number of what I'm installing on the car at the time that I'm installing it. So there you go. So thank you everybody that is a subscriber. I appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd appreciate it. Do it down below. Do the LSS. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family. I appreciate it. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you guys on Saturday night, and good luck to everybody that wants to bid on that car. See you then. Bye-bye.